Hello, and welcome to episode 52 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Aiden Sarah. How are you feeling, fella? There is so much to get to. Playoffs have been kind of a banger so far, but like an undercover banger. How are you feeling about it? What's going on?
Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace to have a team in the race as a Canucks fan at this point in the season. It's been a long time since that's been the case. Tonight is Thursday as we record this. This episode come out Friday morning, which means we just watched Toronto force a game 7 against Boston. It's part 4 of the Toronto Boston game 7s. That comes Saturday, so that's something to look forward to because there was 6 different playoff series this year, James, that were 3-1, which means it didn't look like we were going to get any game sevens, and that's usually the most exciting time of any round. So we are at least getting one, Dallas and Vegas, as well as Vancouver and Edmonton, or Vancouver and Nashville, the other ones that could still go 7 so far, and I'm excited about that. Hopefully, Vancouver and Nashville don't go game 7. I'll say that as well.
Well, before we dive into all these series, because we've got a fair bit to talk about with each of them, like there's been at least a storyline per series that we can touch on. But you're back in BC. You're no longer in shivering Alberta, although I don't really know what it's like there on May 2nd, but how's it feel to be back?
I think it snowed this week, so that further exemplifies being happy to be back if I'm avoiding the snow. Um, it's good to be around when everybody's into the Canucks. There's that little tiny piece of me that's like, you know, I don't remember you being a fan of this team when they were bad. What gives? But overall, the fever of the area is quite infectious, and we're gonna get a an exciting game 6 tomorrow.
Well, Aiden, infectious is exactly the word. Like I've talked at nauseum on this podcast about what it felt like to be in seventh grade as the Canucks were marching to the finals, and everywhere you looked, you saw a Canucks jersey. But that infection doesn't last. It doesn't last at all because just as quickly as they turn on to the team, they turn off. It happens very fast. Like if they lose game 6 and go to game 7, you will see a very sharp percentage of those people just instantly become haters and be like, oh, this happens every time, blah, 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 blah. It's just going to be a lot of people suck that way. As quickly as people get on a bandwagon, they do get off. But, I do like the energy. The energy is fun. And I like seeing people in the city get excited. One thing though, speaking of Vancouver and being here, Vancouver's mayor Ken Sims said no watch parties. How'd you feel about that? Or no
I don't
big
know.
outdoor watch parties with the big screen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the last time it would have been a thing, obviously, is 13 years ago, and it feels a little bit like maybe a sins of the father type deal.
Yeah.
But like, how many? I don't know. I guess the thing that was in my head is like, okay, like I'm 21 years old, right? Um, I'm not gonna get a watch party outdoors in Vancouver because of something that happened to the city when I was 8, right? That seems silly to me. And I'm definitely not the only person like that. It obviously also includes you, right? In terms of age at the time and age now. I kind of think it's a little bit of a bad look when it comes to teams and fan bases. Not because like it's not because it's not obvious that the Canucks fans are committed to it, but it it bugs me a little bit.
Yeah.
It's hard to really pinpoint a lot of reasons why, aside from what I said, which is, the people that would be enjoying it now aren't the people that ruined it back then for the most part.
I will say the alternative, which is indoor watch parties in Rogers Arena for $15 to get in, I believe it was. Um, I'm not jazzed up for that. I'd rather just watch the game at home or at a bar or at a friend's place. Like I don't really feel like it just doesn't really interest me, but I will say great business decision by the team because you're getting concession sales, you're getting 15 bucks a head, and they probably had a good few thousand people in there.
There's a lot of people there. The tickets are largely sold for Friday's game. I think all the proceeds, or the proceeds at least from the gate entry, are go straight to Canucks for kids fun, but then
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice. I like
yeah,
that.
you do get
That's
the
nice.
concessions and the alcohol sales then. So yeah, I think it's a good middle ground between yeah, okay. So everybody gets in, that money gets donated, and then whatever you want to voluntarily spend, that's different.
Well,
Um,
one last thing before we dive into these series. You're back for a while. You got beautiful BC at your fingertips. The world is your oyster. What are you gonna do? What's your big plans in BC to get some nice stuff in the sun before you go back?
I don't think it's big plans. I think it's exactly what you just said. Just enjoy the weather and enjoy being outside in this place. Like today we were we're recording this post Leafs game. The idea was to do it pre-Leafs game, and James and I were both pretty tired this morning, so we pushed it. But after I finally did get
It
up,
was it even morning? Was it
oh,
noon?
I was up in the morning, but I think
Yeah.
by the time we called it quits was in the afternoon. Um, but after I got a little bit of a second wind, I just I didn't have my car here. Caitlin's got it at her place, but I hopped on the bus and I just went into town today just to
Nice.
just to be outside for a while. And yeah,
Well,
it's sweet to be here. But
Well,
man,
speaking
even
of fun in
better.
the sun, and which you will get, on my birthday, I've decided what I'm gonna do. So on the pod, you're getting a formal invite to my birthday party, Aiden. I'm gonna have a day party at Kits Beach. Just bring all the friends, all the mutuals, all the acquaintances. Something our listeners might not know is I always have the best birthday ever. I just go somewhere and do something fun, tell everyone I know that they can come with if they want. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. But either way, I just have a great time. I like to just set the celebration as just enjoy the day, you know?
Perfect.
And I do hope you will be there, and you can bring all of our cheering rabid fans who will mob me and ask me questions press conference style. Because I gotta have my moment, right? Like you gotta be the center of attention for at least a minute on your birthday.
All right, Rangers Caps. Let's start there.
Okay, that's a good spot to start. I mean, I guess we're starting with what ended quickest. Aiden wrote down something on our rundown. Well, the series was 4-0. What he wrote down was inevitable. Yes, if anything was going to be a sweep, it was going to be this one. I did say in our preview, if the Caps win a game, Charlie Lindgren will steal a game. He did not steal a game, so they did not win a game. That's kind of how it went.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious to me watching that series that the New York Rangers are a younger, faster, and better team, and the playoff series went pretty indicative of those very clear facts. Yeah, you said it. Like Charlie Lindgren was going to have to outplay Igor Shesterkin in a big way for Washington to even have a chance, and eh, he didn't. I'm not gonna crap on Lindgren too much. He
No,
didn't play his best, but he faced a lot of grade A scoring chances from grade A
oh,
positions, and
yeah,
it's hard to fault a goaltender
from
for
grade A players.
yeah, hard to fault a goaltender for letting in those shots. And like it's obviously time for the Washington Capitals. It's the cup window's long since closed. It's these are legacy seasons for the Alexander Ovechkin, John Carlson, and obviously Nick Backstrom and Evgeny Kuznetsov are gone. Backstrom's I don't think officially retired yet, but it doesn't really look like he's going to get back to play because
Yeah,
of injuries. So Tom Wilson, you could put him in that category as well. And for
I mean, he's still pretty
Washington,
useful.
definitely. And I think it's going to be interesting to see. Like I'm always team tear down rebuild. I know they're not going to do it until after Ovechkin's gone, but it'll be interesting to see how they kind of prime the team for the post Ovechkin years, because there's a way to do it right now. I think where you make enough tweaks, surround Ovechkin with enough players for him to still be successful and still, you know, not be the 32nd best team in the NHL. But you can't be doing anything that would jeopardize the development of guys like Connor McMichael and Ryan Leonard. That's the future, and that's who everybody's really going to be watching. Like Ryan Leonard hasn't signed yet, but he had a great season this year, and like if he does sign, he's going to end up being a top six forward for Washington next season.
Totally. And it seems there could be a spot because I'm not sure if you saw what TJ Oshie said after discussing the broken hand he played with in game 4. but he said that that broken hand has nothing on what he's been enduring with his back to play and practice every time. And it seems he will be making a choice, but you could see it in his eyes and hear it in his voice that I think he's got his doubts. I'm not going to speak for him, but I think he's got his doubts. And, it's going to be the end of a great career for TJ Oshie. Like, he eventually arrived in Washington after some fun times in St. Louis and being TJ Sochi at the 2014 Winter Olympics, and with that crazy shootout performance and winning that Stanley Cup. Great career. Like, that's like a very respectable 1,000 games I think he put together by the end. And so that's a spot. But it seems that the Caps GM Brian McClellan will be looking to fill in more than just one spot. He had some comments at the end of season, end of playoff presser, where he said it was more or less, and I'm paraphrasing here, unfair to put all of the team's offensive pressure on a 38-year-old Alexander Ovechkin. And he kind of hinted and danced around the fact that he will be looking to improve the top six with multiple players. So one of those players could be Ryan Leonard. Connor McMichael was one of few bright spots for the Caps in that 4 games. He looked very primed and ready, and it looked like he was ready for a big moment. And that big moment could be a solid 50 something points next year. And you look at the Caps top six for next year, you've got Ovechkin, Dylan Strome, Tom Wilson, Connor McMichael, and 2 spots.
It'd be interesting to see if
See what they
Hendrix
do.
Lapierre gets a shot.
I think he's a 3C.
I think he's actually perennially going to be a 3C. Like, I think he'll be
Yeah.
he'll
And
be
there's
one of
nothing wrong
those.
with that.
Yeah, he'll be one of those third line centers that everybody's like, yeah, I wish he was my third line center, but
Yeah.
it's probably a ceiling. Yeah, it's mm, easiest one to get through this Rangers Capitals series. And then we'll
Oh,
move
and
on.
one more thing though before we move on. Also in that story, Ovechkin was he was asked about the goal record, and he didn't. I'm not going to say he didn't sound confident, but he said, I mean, what is it? 41 more goals. I think
I thought it was a little
I
bit
think he
more than
said,
that.
from what I remember, he said 41 more goals. That's a lot of goals. It'll depend on staying healthy for sure. He's got 2 seasons on that contract to do it. I think he can do it. I think he
Yeah,
will do it.
853. I think he'll do it in 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
regression this year. It had to happen. He's 38 now. He was 37 to start the year. It was an inevitable regression from Alex Ovechkin, and it's
Well,
happened. We'll
closing the
see.
book on this series, inevitable is still the word.
Yeah. Hurricanes 4, Islanders 1. Uh, I was proud of the New York Islanders for winning game 4. It must have been really cool to be an Islanders fan in that arena. It's hard to give the Islanders any more props than that because they didn't play great. And there were some games they played pretty well and then fell apart, vis-a-vis game 2 when they blew a 3-0 lead and ended up losing 5-3.
And then also when they came back to tie a game 3-3 and then immediately got scored on twice in the span of like a minute or two.
Yeah, I think this entire series and the focus of it has to be squarely on the Carolina Hurricanes because they look very, 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 very good. And that
Because
second
Seth
round,
Jarvis is nasty.
Seth
Yeah,
Jarvis is
Seth Jarvis
nasty.
is Seth Jarvis is very
Yeah,
nasty. Like, that guy's
7 points in
gross.
5 games. I mean,
Oh.
he had the second most points on this team during the regular season, and I know he was aided in that by an injured Andrei Svechnikov for a part of it, but man, like this guy's legit. And at the age of 21, he's he's playing himself for me into those like dark horse Team Canada kind of spots with how good he's playing when the pressure is really on. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. It matters what happens in the playoffs, especially for a guy like Seth Jarvis who's playing for a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, right? How long have the Hurricanes have been like how long have they been a serious cup contender now? They made the Eastern Conference Final in 2019. That was probably the start of it. So it's been
Yeah.
5 years now of this team really gunning for glory, and you got a guy like Jarvis who not only is finding a spot in a very good forward core, right? Like it's not easy to to excel necessarily when you've got so many more experienced players ahead of you in the depth chart when you come in, but he's played his way right to the top of the lineup and continues to play well. So him and Gensel and Aho and Svechnikov and Kuznetsov and Brady Shea and Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns, like this is a very deep
Kokiniemi.
Hurricanes team. Yeah, Kokaniemi, who always elevates his game come playoff time. You got to give Kokaniemi the props for that as well. This is a good Carolina team. That second round between the Rangers and the Hurricanes, there's always one series every year that happens before the final where you kind of feel like, yeah, the winner of this series is going to win the cup. And Carolina Rangers in the second round, I'm not saying it will be that series. I think Colorado Dallas would be a very strong contender for that label as well in their second round. But it does feel like it does feel like the second round is going to be huge, and not just be huge in terms of course the winner is going to get to move on to the Eastern Conference Final, but I even mean is going to be huge as far as like what do these two teams take out of each other? You know what I mean? You're going to
Yeah.
have a very probably long and probably hard fought series between these two teams. And at the end of the day, they're the team that emerges might be pretty depleted, right? You don't know what's going to happen in terms of players' health and players' ability to keep on playing in these very, very high pressure, high intensity games. And it's a war of attrition. It's not the first time I've said it on the podcast. Probably won't be the last, but that's the
I
reality
enjoy
of the
that
playoffs.
phrase.
It's true.
It's a good phrase. I think I have one more thought on this series just before we dip on it. Um, 12 months ago, we were talking about Ilya Sorokin as if he was a top three goaltender on the planet. Patrick Waugh clearly has zero confidence in him, and he turned to Varley, who was his guy 10 years ago for the Colorado Avalanche when he was second in Vezina voting and fourth in MVP voter. And Varley tried. He did his best, but I don't think it mattered who was in the net and if they were on the top of their game. The Hurricanes were winning this one. Case closed.
Definitely, I think as far as Sorokin goes, he'll be back next year and be the starter. The reason I say that more than anything else is the fact that Semyon Varlamov, if memory serves, is 36 years old as we speak. If they were the same age, I think you'd have a real discussion about who's going to be the team starter and if the other was potentially expendable. But that cannot possibly be the case when you consider the ages of these two players. So I got faith that Sorokin's ability will carry him through. The question mark obviously now is for the Islanders. We're gonna do a lot in the summer, I'm sure, about like what should each team do next. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about all these losing teams and what's next for them. But the Islanders are a very interesting one. They've got a not very long list of RFAs and UFAs. I think there's 9 guys that are expiring, which isn't terrible, but a lot of them are more your depth pieces. They don't have any big
Yeah,
contracts coming up.
because
Um,
everyone important has 30 million years of term.
yes, they do, including their top 3 guys. Like I think Barzell, Horvat, and Dobson being on the contracts they're at is good. Like Horvat's AAV is a bit high, but getting Barzell and Dobson where they are for the money they're at is good. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. They need to be better if they want to compete. I think that was brutally obvious in the playoffs. It was brutally obvious through the season. They were not in a playoff spot for a huge chunk of it. But let's keep going because we touched on it off the top. We'll go over to the Atlantic while we're still in the East. Toronto's tied this series up 3-3. Tale of two series is for me, I guess, James, is what I'll
Isn't
say
series
about it.
plural already?
I think series is plural.
Yeah.
But definitely two parts to this one where in the beginning it looked like Toronto's defensive depth was being exposed. And it's hard to be like, oh yeah, there's still a problem. But the biggest difference has been the Ilya Samsonov series that Boston won 3-1 and the Joseph Woll series that Toronto's winning 2-0. And I don't think it should be a secret or sorry, I don't think it should be a surprise that that's the case because if you look at how both goaltenders played this year, Joseph Woll was way more consistent, right? Ilya Samsonov had his flashes of brilliance, but every game Woll played, he looked at least like an NHL goalie. You definitely can't say that sentence about Samsonov and mean it. I think Samsonov struggled in the first 4 games. I'm not going to say it's his fault that they were down 3-1 because
He had one pretty good game. One game I
yeah,
thought he looked unreal.
yeah. And then, like there were a few goals that can't go in, but for the
Mhm.
most part, when when a goal went in, you had to say, yeah, that was a nice goal, no chance. And there were times where he made saves that you wouldn't have expected him to make. So he wasn't terrible. I think he got unlucky that Toronto's defense wasn't playing very well in front of him. Um, don't know what the heck's going on with Austin Matthews, because for good reason. Don't forget that a couple years ago in the playoffs, it was public knowledge that Leon Draisaitl was playing through a high ankle sprain, and you saw the Los Angeles Kings give him a two-hand whack on that ankle every single opportunity they could. So it's no shock that Austin Matthews' injury or ailment, at the least, is not known to everybody. This Toronto team are playing well without him. It's interesting to kind of consider, like we have talked about it on this podcast before. If you're a frequent listener, you know this. I was born in Canada, but I was born into a Portuguese family, so I've always been as big on the soccer side as the hockey side when it comes to sports. And I grew up watching Cristiano Ronaldo play for Portugal. And the question that persisted with Ronaldo in Portugal for a very long time was like, is he a problem to that Portugal team? Everything funneled through him. He was the guy. He had this huge personality, and all the attention was always to him. And for the first 10 years of his career, Portugal didn't look great with him there. That changed kind of around the prime of his career, right around 2016 when they finally won a tournament. But it's an interesting question to ponder with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is this a next man up kind of, everybody's rallying in the absence of their superstar? Or is this the case that when he's playing, they look too much to him? Is he almost the ex machina, to use a film term, the get out of jail free card, to the point where if they're having a bad game, if the team's having a bad game, they don't feel the need to bear down and survive, because you put the puck on 34 stick, and there's a good chance if he's in a good spot in the offensive zone, it's going in the back of the net. And I think maybe Matthews' ability is maybe taking a little bit of accountability away from the rest of the team. I don't think it's a coincidence that they're 2-0 without him. That's definitely what I'll say. It also doesn't help that the guy, for me, has this is, you know what though? This is the probably the best series I had seen him play, to the 4 games that he did play.
Yep, agreed.
He was awesome. He definitely was the main reason they won game 2, goals aside. He was a machine.
That
Um,
fourth game, he was definitely dealing with something though. Like it was very obvious.
Yes, I think in game 3, the end of game 3, it looked like he was already battling through something.
The thing I notice is lacking energy. Like it's
Yeah, well, and
whatever it is, he's fighting through something that is making him exert more energy to be able to get out there and do his job.
yeah, and obviously it should become knowledge and become public information what the injury is after the playoffs are over, but they're not going to reveal that till then. Yeah, it's tough. We'll see what happens in game 7. Obviously, that's the big one that Toronto hasn't got over. They obviously did win in the first round last year, so that that hurdle was jumped over, but they did so in 6. They still haven't won a game 7 in forever. We'll see.
One thing that just kind of dawned on me as well is a lot of people are very hard on when players are injured. And also, Aiden and I had a very lengthy conversation earlier today over text about like, is Matthews the problem? I was very much on the opposite side of it. I fully believe it's a next man up mentality that's getting them through this, and also them being more confident in front of Joseph Wall than they were in front of Samsonov. You see that very often. Teams just play different in front of different goalies, because sometimes that confidence comes from the back and builds forward, right? But a lot of people get on players to, oh, you're injured. Well, if you can walk, if you can skate, get on the ice. Well, you know what? We're not in the NHL where players get shot up with Toradol and get sent back out there anymore. That still probably does happen sometimes, but it's not the way it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. We don't do that as much because we know what kind of effect it has on players' bodies long term, especially a player as marketable that brings as much money forward as that guy. It's not something that's smart long term. And you know what? If it's the cup finals, they probably will anyway. If it's the conference finals, probably will anyway. But if this is something pretty serious, shooting him up with a Toradol or another painkiller that'll get him through the game, and him risking further injury in a more extensive measure in the first round, probably not worth it. Probably not worth it at all. But I hope to see him in game 7. I will say this series has been fun to watch. All the storylines aside, it's been good hockey. Like you see a lot of guys step up. Um, One thing that Aiden had down here was that a talking point we had, and one I think we discussed at some point was Toronto's defensive issues are kind of showing. I will say I've really liked Jake McCabe. I thought he's been very good. Whether that's assisting with zone entries, whether that's a good first pass, whether that's boxing out a winger coming in. I've seen him and a couple others make David Pastrnak look not so elite quite a few times. And I there's one more player that I've been mind-bogglingly impressed with, but this is nothing new for him. Max Domi is great in playoffs. He was awesome for Dallas. He was awesome for Carolina. He was a great World Junior player. When games really mean something, this guy is awesome. What have you thought of Max Domi this playoff so far?
Yeah, again, it's the 2020 playoffs were weird. All
Yeah.
right, we've talked about that. They weren't normal. He was bad. That was his first taste of playoffs. He didn't play well. In the 2 years he's been in the playoffs since then, which was like you said, 2022 in Carolina, and then 2023 last year with Dallas, he's been a baller. Like he's been amazing. He's been the go-to guy for me in terms of like you need momentum to shift without like a goal going in. Obviously, a goal is always going to change momentum, but if you need a little spark in your team, you put Domi on the ice, right? Like I've liked this guy, like you said, since the World Junior, since he was on the London Knights, and I thought when Toronto picked up Bertuzzi and Domi, it was the smartest thing they could have done in the summer. And I think Domi's ability to play center as well is clearly making that very true in this first round.
Now, Aiden, did you see his face-off percentage in game four? Or no, game
No,
five?
no,
85%.
that's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now, his face-off percentage in playoffs is 84.2% over 6 games. How do you even do that?
I wish there were more playoff awards.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Well,
And
I
it's
swear teams used to do like an unsung hero one and stuff like that. Or was that just regular season?
I think that was just regular. I can't remember a team ever doing anything beyond an MVP for a playoffs.
And now we're talking about Max Domi, and I've said awesome. Aiden said baller, and someone might just look at, oh, 4 points in 5 games. Yeah, it's pretty good. But no, as you said, it's not just showing up on the score sheet, it's everything. And it's not just in numbers, right? Like he's got one block shot, 5 hits, 14 shots, shooting percentage around 7%. He's only a +1, but watch the game. Don't look at the box score. Don't look at the broken down stats. Just watch the game, and you will see that this guy is a man on a mission. They put what's that line they have right now? I want to say is it is it Marner, Domi, and Bertuzzi?
Yeah, that's the one they put together after Matthews bowed out.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Marner needs Domi and Bertuzzi. Like,
Oh yeah.
it. I think Mitch Marner is going to go to a quiet NHL market and excel. I don't think it's going to happen for him in Toronto. Like it's almost it's almost like there's too much damage there. Don't forget that he was a child when the whole Mike Babcock thing happened.
Yeah.
There's no way that still, and okay, I'm not trying to make an excuse for the guy. He's played bad hockey. He needs to play better hockey.
Other than this last game,
Yeah, he played a bit better in game 6. At least he was noticeable in a good way.
I think he was okay in game 5 after being horrible through the first 4 games, and then he was pretty good in game 6.
Yeah, and if there's anybody that's going to get him going, I think it's going to be Domi and Bertuzzi, if for no other reason than a little bit of an infectious energy and drive. The motor of those guys hopefully rubs off a little bit.
Aiden, we do have to talk about it as well because we haven't had a podcast since. What about the shot of Marner, Matthews, Bertuzzi, and Nylander on the bench? Should I just run through it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So I believe on the bench it goes from left to right from what you can see, but right to left for them. It goes Matthews, Bertuzzi, Marner, and then Nylander. And Matthews is very clearly saying something to Marner. And then Marner is not having it. He looks very dejected about what's being told to him. And you can see Bertuzzi sitting back and giving the whole like, yeah, I'm not part of this. This is not my discussion. And then Marner says something back to Matthews, and you can see Nylander, and I'm not a lip reader. Everyone online is, and but the mics picked up some of it, and what appears to be said is, quit crying, Mitch. This isn't Bleeping Junior. And then you see Marner whip his gloves at the ground behind him. And if they had lost in game 5, that was probably going to be one of the biggest talking points. So it's probably a good thing. Like, even if they lose in game 7, it's probably a good thing that they won a couple games and that he's played better since, because at least it's kind of taken some of that away. Like, people aren't talking about that as much today as they were a few days ago, right?
Well, and heading into a game 7, I would rather hear not about that and more
Yeah.
about the hockey. But speaking of hearing not about that, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. It needed to be said. But Maple Leafs Bruins has taken up some time. Panthers beat the Lightning in 5. Again, I watched this whole series and it very much stood out to me. Like, Tampa Bay was a bit unlucky. They had some goaltender interference calls not go their way. They had bounces not go their way. They had a goalie on the other end that looked like a god. But overall, they played okay and they just lost to a team that played and is better than them. Florida is very good. Tampa Bay is good. They're on the older side. It showed. They're not as deep as they used to be. It showed. Florida look good. I don't think it matters who wins game 7 between Toronto and Boston, because I think Florida wins that
I
series.
wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I honestly, I don't even think it matters who wins the Metro. I'm that sold on Florida again. I think Florida is going to win the East 2 years in a row. But Aiden, I'm wrong about playoff predictions every time, so I may have just buried them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the jinx obviously, but at the end of the day, like I definitely think whoever they play in the Eastern Conference Final will be a lot harder than Toronto or Boston. Like the
Totally.
Rangers or the Hurricanes are good teams. But Kachuk looks great again. Sam Reinhart looks like the best version of himself. I feel like every time a game goes into overtime, Carter Verhaeghe is going to score.
Yeah, that guy. Carter
Yeah,
Verhaeghe is so good in playoffs. Have you seen
yeah.
his playoff numbers?
It, it, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot, but this is a guy that's trending towards Justin Williams levels of like playoff acumen.
Aiden, is he not only behind 2 players for overtime playoff game winners all time?
Yeah, he is. I think he's got 5 and the record's 8. So that's
Yeah,
not an inconceivable mark for him to reach, especially on a Florida team that are this good. And it's funny, right? Like it's these late bloomer type players. Verhage was a Toronto pick. He ended up in the Tampa Bay system, and that Syracuse Crunch AHL team, man, they do some things right. They fostered him, they brought him up, and it's funny that it's their cross-state rivals that are going to end up benefiting the most. But man, 5 goals and 9 points in 5 games is crazy. The guy's got 20 goals and 43 points in 50 games in his career. But don't forget that the first 2 years he was buried in lineups, right? He was down the lineup in Tampa. He had a good first season in Florida, but he definitely was not the guy that he is now. But 6 goals and 12 points in 10 games in 22, 7 goals and 17 points in 21 games in 23, and he's taken it to a whole other level this year. Florida are going to need Sam Bennett, man.
yeah, I
Bennett
agree.
took a shot to the hand in game 2, hasn't been in since. You hope for the best, but Antoine Lundell, as much as I love that guy, Bennett leaves a hole. I like Lundell to
Yeah.
fill it, but then even when you bump Lundell up, you obviously, you need to fill Lundell's spot. And I think Bennett coming back before the conference final would be huge for them.
Yeah, what a couple other nice little things about Florida. I mean, when I'm cheering for teams in playoffs, a lot of the time when it's not my team, I cheer for players. Florida has one Mr. Kyle Poso, who hasn't played in the playoffs in a very long time. Very long time. And you know what? I don't know, he could call it quits after this season. This could be it. He's
If
not
they
playing.
win,
Yeah.
if they win, why not?
Yeah. And so that's a guy you cheer for. I always look at the guys who have played the longest in the league without winning a cup. Dallas has a couple, Suter and Pavelski. But yeah, I enjoy when and Carolina, Brent Burns, right? Like there's guys like that sprinkled around everywhere. So that kind of thing gets me going and I think it gets the teams going as well. Like let's win for this guy that he might not ever get a chance again. So yeah, Bobrovsky, absolute gamer. I am willing to say that one more deep playoff run, even without winning the cup, and he's a Hall of Famer now. Two Vezinas, a cup finals. Um, Goalies with worse resumes have got in.
For sure.
And I mean, just looking to Tampa, I didn't think they played bad.
No, that
Sergachev
and
coming back was a nice shot in the arm. That was good. Like he played well. He looked really good. He came back from a broken leg, and he was saying that he was inspired by what Steven Stamkos did years and years before. Um, I don't think they played bad at all. This 5 game series, Tampa only winning 1 game, it didn't look like that in the games you watch at all. It looked like it went 6, maybe 7, which doesn't sound like a big margin, but it is. But Matthew Tkachuk said it best. If we were gonna get through and win a cup at some point, we were gonna have to go through the Tampa Bay Lightning at some point. It's kind of like it's like a momentous occasion we have to go through. And he was saying that it means a lot that they were able to go through them, a team with that resume and that reputation and that work ethic. So that's pretty cool to carry forward. I guess just looking at Tampa though, and as you said, we'll talk about teams moving forward and their plans later in the offseason because yeah, we'll have a lot of time for that. But it feels like a lot is going to need to change in Tampa. And one of my best friends is a huge Bolts fan. He said you can just feel the change coming. And one of those changes could come in the form of Steven Stamkos being a pending unrestricted free agent. Do you think he stays? I think he's a Red Wing next year.
I was about to say that the Steve Yzerman connection is a hard one not to make, especially kind of as Detroit clearly benefited from Patrick Kane on that team and now have the opportunity to bring in a better version of Patrick Kane, or at least better right
What if
now.
they do Kane and Stamkos? What if they keep Kane and sign Stamkos?
I think they need to play on separate lines if they do that. I'll tell you that much, but I wouldn't hate it. The fact that you could roll out DeBrincat, Larkin, and Kane, and then still put out Steven Stamkos on that second line is big.
Stamkos,
Um,
Comfer, Raymond.
Oh, Lucas Raymond is taking he keeps taking a step every year. He gets a little bit better every time I see him play. Um yeah, Tampa Bay, I think the good part about Tampa is they lost 2 first round playoff series at a time where if they are going to make some big changes, they have a lot of value in that team, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
they've got their superstars, but I think a lot of those Tampa Bay players have value, and a lot of the even the big guys, right? Like I don't think they're going to trade Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, anybody in that category, but those players aren't too old that retooling is a pointless exercise, right? Like I
Mhm.
think that about a lot of teams that try and retool, that it's a bad choice because the guys there are never going to be good enough to lead that team when they're finally good enough if you retool. Like I do think those big players, if it's feasible to do so, are best traded most of the time. But I don't see Tampa doing that. They're good enough that I think,
And
some tweaks and
like
run it
they
back,
have
try
good
again.
secondary pieces though. Like they've got Hagel, they've got Sergachev, they've got Nick Paul. I'm not so sold on Cernak recently, but he's usually pretty good. Like they have stuff, but you also saw they're playing guys like Martinson Lilleberg and Crozier and Darren Radish. There's a lot of random guys coming in, and um, proud of your cousin for getting to the NHL. That's awesome. But like, do you think in their insane depth years he would have gotten that call up?
Well, no, and I think that's kind of it's funny that that might actually be what Tampa Bay needs, right? Like that a couple guys on ELCs that
Yep,
step up and play big roles for them to compete.
I got my
Um,
fingers crossed.
yeah, Darren Radish, Darren
He looked
Radish to
okay.
me, I really like him as a bottom pair guy, but he was being shoehorned into top 4 minutes and it didn't
Mhm.
really feel great. Let's flip to the West now, though. Um, Winnipeg, man, Winnipeg, I think, wins my most disappointing team of the playoffs award, and I don't even think it's close. Like, game one, they looked amazing. Colorado looked not very good, and then it all fell off a cliff from there. I think Connor Hellebuck took too much flack. I'll definitely say that. He was not at his best. But if you look at some of the goals that went in, man, Winnipeg's team defense was so good all year and chose the worst possible time to fall apart. Was Hellebuck the best version of Hellebuck? No. Does he deserve blame for Winnipeg losing this series? I would also say definitely no. What do you think, James? Your team 1-5. Valeri Nichushkin looked amazing. Kale McCarr, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, man. This team looks legit. What do you think?
I think that I feel really happy that they won a round after that first round knockout against Seattle last year. That team was not ready. They were not ready at all. They had lost a lot of significant pieces, and you couldn't really blend what they had together just yet. But I think what shined for me was outside of the big guys. I was so impressed with Casey Middlestat. He looked so good the entire series. Sam Gerard coming back from injury was a nice shot in the arm. That was really good. Um, Josh Manson, he takes a lot of chances right now for some reason. I think the missing Bowen Byram makes him kind of step up a little bit more offensively now. And sometimes it's pretty sweet. Sometimes it's a little frightening. Also, he falls down a lot. I don't know what that is. Josh Manson is falling over a lot. If I were to count how many times I watched him fall over so far, it's probably close to 10, close to or around 10. Um, but the big thing for me, they lost game one 7-6, and Alexander Georgiev had probably the worst game, one of the worst games of his career, like bottom five for sure. And after that, everyone was like, "Oh, panic! Oh, we got to start anybody else." Backup goaltender Justus Onunen, who I think will be a starter in this league very soon, probably for this team next year, unless Colorado wins a cup, maybe even next year anyway. Um, he wasn't available. He was sick or had like a family. I think he was sick, and it went okay. All we got is you, Georgie. And he did it. He played incredible. Like, I'm not going to say he was showing up like a Vezina goalie, but he made the right saves when they needed to be made. He wasn't letting in squeakers. There was maybe like one bad goal he let in after game one, probably one that he wanted back. And remember what I was saying about Joseph Woll, the confident from the net out? When the team can be confident in their goalie again, they'll go, okay, we'll go get you goals. You just keep stopping them. Um, that wasn't the best defensive series Colorado has played, but they definitely tightened it up after game two. But Aiden, what can you say when a team wins a series in 5 games and they score at least 5 goals a game? Like
Pretty dominant.
yeah, that's a floor
Well,
wipe.
yeah, and it's hard to again, like it's Connor Hellebuck is gonna win the Vezina for good reason.
Yeah, and he deserves
Um,
it.
and again, I he was not at his best. He wasn't the reason why they lost.
He didn't play bad. They couldn't kill a penalty
They
after
definitely
game two.
couldn't.
They couldn't figure it out.
And then they took a bunch of penalties. That doesn't help either. Um, Colorado looked like the Colorado that was supposed to play Seattle and didn't show up last year, and
Well, they
that
didn't
makes
have
them
the
a
pieces. They didn't. Plain and simple.
yeah, and that makes them a scary team.
Yeah.
I agree with you about Casey Middlestat. It's it's hard to know if a guy's a playoff performer if he never gets the chance to play in the playoffs. And man, he's really taken that chance that he got and
Did you know
excelled.
he was that silky? Did you know he had hands like that?
I definitely did. That was like he was he was very hyped up going into the draft just because of the toolkit he had. And the question mark was, can he do this at the NHL level, which was, a huge question mark, especially the guy wasn't really playing at a high level until halfway through his draft year.
Mhm.
He was coming out of high school hockey in Minnesota,
Yeah.
which is huge, But getting drafted 8th overall after starting the year in a high school league tells you how amazing of a draft year the guy had. He ended up in the USHL in the back half of his draft year before he went to the University of Minnesota. Colorado gets Vegas or Dallas in the second round. I think that's an unlucky draw to say the least. I do think Dallas is going to win this series, which for me means that Alexander Georgiev doesn't need to be as good as Jake Ottinger is going to play. He needs to be almost as good as Jake Ottinger is going to play. And Colorado's offensive ability needs to shine through again. The one thing I'll throw your way, James, personally, I had a lot of faith in the Jets in 2018. I had a lot of faith in the Jets that they were going to run that back in 2019. They ended up losing to St. Louis in the first round. Since then, I haven't thought this team is going to win, and I'm as my confidence in this Jets group is as low as it possibly could be right now when it comes to them winning with this core. The only consolation of this series for me is the fact that Josh Morrissey looked like a
Oh
borderline
my God.
Norris
Okay.
caliber
Okay.
defenseman. Like he played better hockey than I've ever seen him play. And I do watch enough Jets games enough Jets games that he shouldn't have surprised me with that in the series. But he, I wonder if somebody got in his ear and said, "Hey, you've got the best defenseman in the world you're playing against. You got to try and step it up because he's going to skate circles around us." And Morrissey went, "Okay, I'll be as good as Cale Makar," and then he almost was, which is a huge accomplishment for him.
Yeah, like if
Um,
Makar's a 10, he was giving us like an 8.5.
yeah, if not better, at times better. 8.5 average for a 5-game series that they lost 4 games in. But there were times where he looked like the best player on the ice. A lot of times, really, to me, he was the best player for the Jets by far and bar none.
Okay,
Um,
but while we're giving flowers, before we move anywhere, Adam Lowry needs his flowers. That guy is stupid good. That guy is very, very useful. I'm not going to buy into what the people online were saying, where as you were saying earlier with Seth Jarvis, when players play well in playoffs, we start thinking about them for best on best tournaments. No, I don't think he's Canada's 4C at the Olympics. I don't think that. I think he'll get a camp invite. I think he'll maybe get some consideration because we do that. Like Travis Hamonic got a camp invite for Sochi. Like that's what we do. You cast a wide net and you see what's going to work out as the season goes on. But Adam Lowry was very good. He was the bane of Mikko Rantanen's existence for 4 games. The guy is very good physically. He's dead serious. He's a good leader. And I like watching his conduct on the bench, talking to his teammates when they're down a goal, when the game's tied, when they've just been hemmed in their own zone for a while, or even when they've done something great. I was super impressed with the leadership abilities. I was super impressed with his play. He's great on the dot. I'm very impressed with Adam Lowry. The guy has come along a very, very lengthy way to develop to the player that he is now. And yeah, he deserves his flowers. He's a good
hey,
player.
James, we're going to go on to talk about Dallas Vegas in 3 minutes. You have up to 3 minutes to yap about Colorado for a bit longer. I'll just give
Oh,
you the
this is
floor
fun.
here.
All
Just
right,
go.
cool, cool, cool. Okay, I like it. Colorado's power play is clicking at an alarming rate, which is it's nothing new for playoffs sometimes. I really enjoy that. Their power play is so good that when I watch another team a la Vancouver Nashville series right after, I feel like I'm falling asleep. The comparison from watching these guys zip it around and have that crazy zone possession and then just the zone entries too. Like what they can do threatening through the neutral zone. It's just, oh man, it's gross. But one thing I really want to shine a light on though is the Bednar blender. And if people don't know, Jared Bednar is the coach of the Avalanche. Has been since that alarmingly bad season where Patrick Waugh quit a couple weeks before. Um, he is very well known to Colorado Avalanche fans, maybe not to everyone else, for just flipping those lines around. And he flips them in a way where he's got about 5 or 6 different combinations for the top 9, and he'll just flip it around throughout the game. Oh, this isn't working. Let's try that. This isn't working. We're gonna do that. Oh, this is working. Well, we're gonna juice up the second line now because the first line's clicking so well. And it creates that onslaught where all four lines are playing the same game and you're just hemmed in your own zone, getting outshot 40 to 25. Away she goes. Last piece of flowers I'm going to give out. I'm super impressed with Yakov Trenin. That's a cup winning 4C. That's the kind of 4C you have on a team like that. I that goal he scored and the still frame shot. The Avalanche posted on their Instagram. I recommend checking it out. You hold on the little dots and you swipe through, and it does a cool little like still frame slideshow. Really impressed with Zach Parise as well. He's not the player he was 10 years ago, but damn, is he ever good for his age. Couple big goals scored in the series and a little bit of an injury scare in game 5, but I'm excited to see what comes next. I'm ready for probably Dallas, maybe Vegas. I wish it was Vegas. I think they would finally toast Vegas, but yeah.
That was
Was
3 minutes and 10 seconds. That was pretty good.
okay.
I
Okay.
wasn't going to cut you off, but we will go from Colorado, who you just commended Parise and Trennan, and ergo their pro scouting, to a team whose amateur scouting might be the best in the league. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Stars. 2-0 Vegas was very reminiscent in my head of a certain Columbus versus Washington first round series from 2018,
Mm.
where the Capitals went down 2-0 at home, won 4 straight, and then won the Stanley Cup. Dallas went down 2-0 at home, have won 3 straight. Game 6 is tomorrow. We will see how that goes. I had the Stars from the start. Huge reason why is I got a lot of faith in a lot of those players that they're going to step up come playoff time. We've seen Miro Heiskanen do it. We've seen Joe Pavelski do it, even though Pavelski did not hasn't had a great series so far.
It'll
But
come.
man,
It'll come.
Wyatt Johnston has been just. I mean, I hate to I hate to be that guy. He's been exactly what I thought he was going to be.
When you made a crazy odds bet on him to win the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, I will make a good amount of money if Wyatt Johnson ends up winning the Conn Smythe.
What
But
was the stake, Aiden? How much you put down?
so I put down $2.50, and it's a $378 return if he does end up winning the
Hmm.
Conn Smythe.
Well,
Um,
that's the kind of thing that you pull out in the cup finals if they make it that far.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. Um, Dallas for me needs Jake Ottinger to always be there for them. It's that confidence thing you mentioned. He had a little bit of a rocky series, but he's a good starter. I think he'll continue to be good. Um, Speaking of goaltending, I thought Logan Thompson was excellent through the first 3 games of the series. He had an
Not
okay
just
game
numbers
4.
either. It's not just numbers. He actually looked good. Like
Oh
he
man, he
looked
looked
really confident.
confident. It looked like every shot that was going his way, he was saving it, right? There was none of that, desperation. He's getting lucky, right? Like he was just solid. And I probably wouldn't have pulled Hill in. That's nothing against Aiden Hill. And I guess when you have two goalies that are that good, it's hard not to give both a chance.
Yeah.
The first 2 games of the series were tough watches. We talked about that off the hop.
Oh
Not a
God,
whole lot
Aiden, it was
happened.
bad. It was bad. It was like they were skating through molasses. And then
Yeah.
something weird about the lighting as well.
Yeah. You know
You
what?
noticed
Like,
that?
I noticed that game 5 looked better than games 1 and 2. I will
Yeah.
say that. Visually, it looked better.
It was like watching a college games broadcast. Like these were not top of the line broadcast cameras. What the hell was going on?
The
Is the lighting that bad in their rink? Is that what it
That's what
is?
I was gonna say, is it looked dark. But that aside, if Dallas gets through this, the 2-0 scare, I'm a little bit worried for Colorado's sake. I Like you said, I do think they match up with Vegas. I think they will beat Vegas, and I would be surprised if a Colorado Vegas series goes beyond 6 for sure. Like my odds on would probably be Colorado in 5 again. But
Yeah, I thought that once before.
yeah, no kidding. And um,
I remember thinking that with Dallas too. And then John Klingberg and Miro Heiskanen just walked the blue line and haunted my nightmares for probably about a year.
that 2020 Stanley Cup final would have been Colorado Tampa. if
Yeah.
Colorado's goaltending wasn't as banged up, though. That is just a
Well,
fact.
yeah, you got Michael Hutchinson in net. You know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Dallas, Colorado is going to be an amazing second round, which I'm looking forward to a lot.
If
The
if the Knights don't come back.
If the Knights don't come back, indeed.
Can I add one more thing there? Um, okay, when the Golden Knights are down in a series, you don't hear anyone talking about LTIR. Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because well, James, like there are teams every year that are either attempt to do it or end up a little bit over the cap in the playoffs.
Oh, a
At the end of
little
the
bit.
day, yeah, here's my 2 cents, right? I think you and I have at least similar viewpoints on it, which is if you don't like what a team is doing and think it should not be allowed, then don't allow it. Change the rule. Right now, they're not cheating. They are taking advantage of a loophole in the rule.
And if another team's complaining, how about you try it? Why
Yeah,
not?
straight up. Like I totally agree with you. I'm not defending the fact that like the fact that Vegas has often operated in a seemingly a little bit of a sleazy way at times in their existence as a franchise.
Hey man,
Um,
it's Vegas.
they won the Stanley Cup, right?
Yep.
I said that it's hard to argue with anything a team does when they're successful, and um, yeah, I think it. I would not have noticed on my own that the LTIR shouts were quieter, but now that you pointed out, I do. I have noticed that now that they've lost 3 straight.
Before we move on, just to add on to that, I would like to give the best fans on social media award to both the teams in this series. Neither of them are terrible online, and that's a gold standard because just about every other team's fans, some especially, are just a nightmare to read their comments. You know what? I click on the comments. It's my own fault. If I don't want to read it, I shouldn't click on it, but I do. I like clicking on it, but it's terrible, so I will complain about it sometimes. But these guys, gold standard. Keep it up. And then before I forget, Aiden, what do you think about the otter masks?
It's weird.
It's really weird.
I would definitely say let's leave that in the first round, please, Dallas. Um, it's
Okay,
my
okay,
two
okay.
cents.
Segue that forward. There was one guy who was wearing a German Shepherd mask, like, and he was wearing a Stars jersey. Did the store run out of otter masks? And he's like, "Oh, it's like kind of the same color.
Yeah,
This will work."
that might have been like a I wonder if anybody will notice, and everybody noticed. Listen, unless you're an NHL mascot, if you end up being anywhere in the remote same ballpark as a furry, you're doing something seriously horrible and you should stop doing it. And that
This
was my
just in,
first
Aiden hates furries.
yeah, that was my first impression of the otter masks was okay, that's funny, but that's weird.
Well, I thought it was just a couple people at first, and then they keep going around.
Yeah, and then it wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
Like they've easily got like 500 plus otter masks going in that rink at a time.
I don't like it, man.
And that can't be comfortable. That's rubber on your head the entire game.
For what?
Because Jake Ottinger's nickname is Otter.
Because love makes you do crazy things.
Love does make you do crazy things.
That
That's a good
Colorado,
Aiden
that
tweet that.
Colorado,
Aiden
dude.
tweet that.
Well, I just said that because that's the NHL's like advertising campaign for the playoffs, right? That one commercial. Have you seen that one commercial where the
Oh,
two
I've
Avs
seen it.
fans are
I've seen it.
dating? I think that's hilarious.
My favorite was the Golden Knights one where he's got Vegas 2019
Yeah, me
Stanley Cup,
too.
that dude. And then his buddy's like, as the Sharks are eliminating them, he's just like, well, wouldn't be that hard to change the number. And you just see the guy look dejected. Um, Advertisements have been on point. Before we hop into the next series, can we like talk about that? That one Sportsnet video where it's like it's showing all the cup celebrations and it's like, it's been a long time coming. And then that song's like, here it is. And it's showing like Islanders players drinking out of the cup. It's showing Ray Bork hoisted, it's showing Ovi hoisting it. That's electric city, like complete electric city. I want that shot into my veins. I want to live in that commercial for the rest of my existence. A lot of people get sick of the same commercials, especially if you have like Sportsnet Plus, so it just shows you the same three or four every time. That one, play it for me every 10 minutes. Play it during the game. I don't care. I want to see that all the time. I want to live that all the time.
Okay, two more to go.
No comment. Okay. All right. Don't match my excitement for that great cinematic.
Well, it's what you said. It's the it's the I've watched so much of these playoffs and so much of the same commercials. I really like the one you're talking about. I really like the NHL's uh advertisement campaign in the love makes you do crazy things category as well. You know what I have noticed a lot during these playoffs, and it makes me viscerally angry and I hate it
Canadian
every
team
time.
hasn't won the Stanley Cup in
I
20
hate I hate
years.
that ad, yes.
Yeah, that one sucks.
Okay, but this ad is guilty of the thing I'm about to say, which is if you aren't going to pay for the rights to use a team's hockey jersey in your ad, don't use fake hockey jerseys in your ads. I want to vomit every single time I see those dumb commercials where it's either like clearly a blank Leafs jersey, um, or there's one about like an insurance company and the woman's wearing two jerseys that both
Oh,
aren't NHL jerseys and
oh,
aren't anything jerseys.
oh.
Yeah, like that. So it's fun. Yeah, you're talking about some great advertisements, and I agree with that. But overall, you say advertisements in these playoffs, and I think of those ones because they make me want to vomit every time I watch them.
Well,
So
it's very clear that it's the ones that Sportsnet is doing are great, and then the other ones are. Ugh.
yeah, no, I think it's obvious when somebody somebody in the marketing department is also a big hockey person, and when
Mhm,
that's not the
mhm.
case. Edmonton is beating LA for the third consecutive year. They've beaten LA for the third consecutive year.
God, how
Um,
much would that suck?
yeah, well, uh, they're getting worse, unfortunately, the Kings in this
Yeah.
series. Edmonton look better. That helps. Stuart Skinner to me was what he needed to be, which was solid and reliable and not bad.
He had
Um,
like two really good games,
he
and then
did,
the
yeah.
other three were like good enough.
Yeah, exactly. And for Los Angeles, I think the first thing you do right now is you buy out Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Whoa, 1 year. That's it.
James, it was tough to watch.
Yeah.
He was tough to watch. He was the worst player on the Los Angeles Kings in these 5 games.
Send him to Utah.
Maybe, maybe. It's hard to it's hard to sell that contract with how bad he looked.
But
Um,
buying out that contract is going to give you penalties just as bad, if not worse, than the Parisi Suter ones.
Yeah, there's only 2 years. I did the calculator thing on Cap Friendly. There's only 2 years where I think it's 3.5 million bucks. Otherwise, it's like 1.4 for a while.
For like
Um,
9 years.
yeah, yeah, which sucks, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Um, Edmonton's
I think
defense
they will
looked
and
so
wait.
much. Edmonton's defense looks so much better this year than it usually does. Darnell Nurse didn't look very good. Evan Bouchard looked so good in game 4 and then didn't look very good in game 5. But when he's playing with Matthias Ekholm, it's usually okay. And then Vinny Desharnais for me, all season he's been getting better and better and better. This is a guy where I watched him in the playoffs for the Oilers last year, and I didn't think he was an NHL defenseman. And
I agree.
he's a number 4 guy for them right now, and that's not even a stretch to say that he's a top 4 defenseman, period. Like, he is reliable, he's smart, he's not making those silly mistakes. Looks like he's not panicking on the puck anymore, which was a problem. uh they're apparently looking to sign him long term. Obviously, he's only had a season and a half, but he showed me enough in that season and a half for me to say like he's important to this Oilers team enough that they should be trying to make that move for him. And
I think they should avoid jumping the gun on like a $4.55 million per for 6 years. I think you want to maybe slow it down a little bit, but I don't know. Like it's very hard for me to reward someone with $40 million for 40 games that were pretty decent.
I could
But
see them
also
going
we do that now though.
I could see them going Miles Wood, where it's a long term with a lower AAV, and you say to him,
Okay.
like, listen, you're staying here for 8 years, right? do you want $30 million over 6 in unrestricted free agency, or do you want $32 million over 8 here, right? Like, you bring the AAV down to compensate for the term, and you get him on a better number.
You should avoid bringing up Miles Wood because I didn't bring him up in my 190 seconds of abs talk, and you don't want me to hop back into that bubble. That's a dangerous game.
I think he looked good. That's all I'll say.
Fine,
We can
I'll
leave it
shut
at
up.
that. He's good. Is he not? Did he not look good? I thought he looked
Oh,
great.
he looked great.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Again, pro scouting, man. It's pro scouting. It's what it is.
Mhm.
Last and not least, one of the 3 current matchups still going. Game
Aiden,
6
at least
is,
it's something.
pardon?
At least it's something.
It's probably the least exciting pure hockey series in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, I just needed you to say it, not me.
Yeah, I totally think that. Like Vancouver's most offensively like strong game in terms of chance creation kind of was game 2, and it sounds weird because they lost. They only scored a goal. But they poured a lot onto Yusei Saros in that game, and they haven't really done it since. They don't have a whole lot of shots on goal. The defense, to me, it's the shot blocking. I think that would be what I
Yeah,
would say has been the the best part of this series if you're on one of those benches, and the worst part of the series if you want to see the puck get to the net as a fan, because the puck's never getting to the net ever. Um, the big story from this series the entire time to me has been Thatcher Demko. He got hurt after game 1. Casey DeSmith came in for game 2, played fine. Then Casey DeSmith either got hurt or got sick. Um, and then Arturs Shilovs comes in. He posts a couple good games in a row. And now we're on to game 6 with both a healthy Shilovs and a healthy DeSmith. And what's good for Vancouver, James, and you can disagree with me if you think I'm wrong, I kind of think that there's no wrong answer, right? Like when you're choosing between 2 guys and you're choosing the better and not the least bad, I think that's good. And I think that's where Vancouver are with their second and third string goalies, which is weird because that often isn't the case if a team's needing to use their their third goalie. Um, I don't think it's sustainable. I think if Thatcher Demko doesn't play a game against the Oilers, Vancouver will not win that series. I had them beating Edmonton initially in my bracket, but the absence of Demko swings the pendulum the other way for me. And that is if Vancouver even get through Nashville. Nashville played really well in game 5, I thought. They didn't
I agree.
dominate offensively, but they were very, very strong. They were very together, and they attacked as a unit. They get home ice for game 6. Vancouver's won 2 games in Nashville so far. I think the Canucks are going to win game 6 tonight. It's Friday, knock on wood, but um, Nashville have done more than enough to be in this series. I'll let you talk.
Yeah. I really like watching JT Miller in this series.
I said before it started that
Aiden,
Miller,
Aiden, you want to let that breathe because that's about all that I can say has been exciting.
yeah, oh, I don't disagree with that. I was going to say, I said before the series that Vancouver's last playoff series against Nashville saw American centerman Ryan Kessler elevate his game to another level, and this series against Nashville was going to see American centerman JT Miller elevate his game to another level. Yeah, I don't disagree that he's been great, and I don't disagree that from a neutral standpoint, that would be the most exciting part of this series.
God, Aiden, I have to at least talk about it a little bit. I was gonna let it go with what you said, but going from any other game, I don't care what's before it, any other game this playoffs to any of the games the Canucks have played, I have either fallen asleep or almost fallen asleep. It is nightmarishly uninteresting hockey. Now that the stakes are high, okay, cool. All right. That's interesting. I like stakes. That's cool. Um, I will say there's probably been 30 minutes of pretty good hockey through 5 games. That's garbage. That's not 30 minutes is not good. That's not
Does the end of game 4 make up for anything?
no. No, because there hasn't been a complete game that's been good to watch.
That's fair.
Okay, so 5 awesome minutes? No, that does not get me there whatsoever. This is the first round of playoffs. You know what? Fans of every other sport actually watch the first round of NHL playoffs because it's that good. This is not that gold standard. This is not that. And you know what? I don't care how you win because in the end, that's all that matters. In the end, it doesn't matter if they're entertaining me. My perspective and my enjoyment of their hockey games has zero weight on anything that's happening. I am but a speck that's spectating and not enjoying doing it.
I'm very, very happy to hear you say that winning is more important than what the product looks like to the fans, because that sounds a lot like what I say all the time and you disagree with. Um,
But that's because often my other standpoint rests on, well, the team's pulling money in. But you know what? These teams are still pulling money in. So that matters. But also this isn't that kind of discussion right now. I one other thing I kind of wanted to say was are a lot of Roman Yossi's shots missing the net? Not just getting blocked, but I feel like every time the guy loads up, they're missing the net.
yeah, and I think part of that is because there's like 3 layers of white or blue jerseys in his way every time he gets it, right? He's just
Or
trying to get it
yellow.
through. Yeah,
Or
yeah, he's just trying to get the puck through, and I've noticed that, but I attribute that more to how many surely get blocked, and then you're just praying that it's gonna get through and throwing it wide.
Another thing though, I feel like I have to talk about it at least somewhat. One of the hot topics that Canucks fans are really smart Canucks fans, by the way, the smartest of the bunch, are talking about in comment sections is that Nashville is targeting Vancouver's goalies to make sure they're injured and can't play. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
is that because of one really stupid penalty by Michael McCarron?
Yeah, that's
Because
it.
that
That's it.
okay,
So
all
because
right.
that one thing happened, now every time a Nashville player is near a Canuck goalie, regardless of who's in net, they're trying to injure them. That's the
Dude,
storyline.
don't even dignify that. Like just I don't even want to dignify
Even
if
these
I
comments are getting like 900 likes.
James, I don't care. Like it's like
These are
come
the
on.
fans that you're in with. This is your world. You know that, right? Like
I
this is
I
your team.
don't think it's a secret. I actually think it's a well-known fact that Canucks fans on social media uh
Nightmare fuel.
it's 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 a mixed bag on the best of days, and yeah, it gets bad.
And
Um
then another thing, I've really liked Rick Tockett's approach whenever the team gets scored on, whenever something goes wrong. I've really enjoyed his approach. He's a great coach. We knew he was when he got hired. We knew he was over the course of this whole time. He's just a pro doing pro things, and I have a lot of respect for his approach to all situations so far. Keep Seelovs in net, and then people on the internet figure out how to say Seelovs. It's not that hard. I've heard Silvos way too many times. What the hell are you trying to say? Silvos?
James,
That is
is it
clearly not how it's spelled.
it's she loves.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Maybe most people aren't going to figure out the how the S at the start's pronounced.
Yeah,
If you
it's
say it the way
that
I say it, sure.
yeah, it's that kind of Middle Eastern European like accent on that
Yeah.
S. Yeah. Um
But how do you get Silvos?
by just I don't know, having dyslexia maybe. Like that's
Aiden, that percentage of our population does not have dyslexia.
okay. Okay. It feels like more of this Canucks talk has been not about the hockey.
Okay. Actually, about the hockey, what the hell's going on with Pedersen? This guy is a game breaker, and I see very low in it levels. A lot of the time when he has a shot, he's like, hesitation, look left, look right, pass. And it's a pretty good scoring chance if he just let it fly off that stick, which he's usually pretty good at.
Okay, I'll drop 3 Canucks on you that uh all are worth mentioning for different reasons. Start with Pedersen. You said it, he needs to be better. I think the fix for Pedersen is as simple as this. You put the lotto line back together. You have JT Miller and Brock Besser bank one in off him. And as soon as a goal or two goes in for Pedersen, you're going to see him start playing better This is a psychological thing from a player who's new to this high pressure playoff environment. I think once he gets over the hump, he'll be better. I think that's necessary for the Canucks to win in the second round and finish out this first round series. Number two, Quinn Hughes has been awesome. He's playing excellent hockey. He's also clearly playing through something that the Nashville Predators are doing everything in their power to make worse. They have been on him like crazy. Um, they've been physical with him like crazy, as is the case in the playoffs with everybody. I think he needs to stay healthy for the Canucks. And stay healthy, I don't just mean stay in the lineup. I mean stay healthy as in stay the fully capable defenseman that he is, for the Canucks to win this series and have a chance to win in the second round. And lastly, we've had play better, we've had stay healthy, and now I'm going to say the third player here needs to stay exactly the same. That's Elias Lindholm. Um, I've seen a lot of people call him Little Things Lindholm, and that's pretty like good for me in terms of describing what he's doing so well, because it is the little things. He's good in the dot. He's had a good impact on the game defensively, offensively, in transition, in the neutral zone, on the penalty kill, on the power play. Like he's not blowing your socks off with highlights or a lot of production, but he's doing every single thing that you could probably be asking him to do. Like it's this is the player they got. This is why they got him. They got him not because he was going to score at a 40 goal, 85-point clip like he did that one year for his entire career. They got him because he's awesome at everything. Um, I think Lindholm, I think Pettersson, and I think Hughes are going to all need to play good hockey if Vancouver A wants to win this series and B subsequently wants to beat the Oilers in the second round if they do get through it.
Yes, all of those things. I I thought you were gonna say Dakota Joshua, and my response was gonna be the guy the Canucks fans online think is winning the Conn Smythe.
I think that was a game one sentiment. I don't
Yeah.
think he's been that good since game one.
No, no.
Um,
But the thing with Lindholm, I'm just happy that Canucks fans like him now. This is a guy I've been a massive fan of for a long time, and then you bring him over. He scores. Didn't he score a power play goal in his first game?
he had 2 power play goals in his first game.
Yeah, and then he kind of went through a line blender and underperformed. And yeah, no doubt he underperformed for sure. But also, when healthy, Elias Lindholm is not a third liner with no power play time. That's not a thing. That's not what he is. But he is uh I almost swore and took away our non-mature rating. He is a mother blanker in playoffs. That guy does everything right in playoffs. I really, really would like to see him score more goals because he's sick in the bumper. He's sick on the left side with one T's. He's sick everywhere. Zone entries with a snapshot flying off his stick. Like if say a purely hypothetical thing that I don't think is going to happen. If the Canucks go all the way to the Cup Finals and play 25, 26 games, maybe 28 games, he's going to have like 10, 11 goals. Like that's kind of where I stand on him. The thing with Quinn Hughes though, yeah, he's played incredible. I kind of I I hadn't maybe I just got used to it because like I've seen it so much, but okay, when he's at the blue line and the Canucks have possession in the zone, if the blue line split left to right into four quarters, like there's a dot a quarter way through, like at the 0 mark, the 25% mark, so on and so on. He gets like around the quarter way through the blue line from the left, and it's weird. It's like he like as he's transitioning between there and the halfway point, it's like he sees the ice better. It's like he can see where everyone is and where they're going to be, and any pass he makes when he's in that spot is going to be on their tape. I mean, I've seen it bounce off Pettersson's stick a few times, but it's going to be on their tape. And I find that really impressive. I found him really impressive defensively. If they get through this round and play the Oilers next round, I kind of worry that he's going to have to completely take over offensively for them to have a chance. He's going to have to put up some stupid numbers, like completely take over a game, special teams, and even strength multiple times.
That is 8 first round playoff series we've now talked about. James, one thing I'll throw your way. You talked about you talked about a futures bet I placed already. How's your bracket looking?
Um, I'd always opt not to look at it until the end of the second round. And you know, I I think I think I have as long as the Canucks and Leafs win, I have every team right. I'm 6 for 6 so far.
Well, 5 for
Oh,
5, I guess, right?
well,
Yeah.
the Stars are gonna win. It's a foregone conclusion.
Oh, you think the Stars are gonna win? Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
foregone conclusion because that's the demon that Colorado is gonna have to slay. I can feel it. I can see green in my nightmares. Just victory green and nothing else. A blank canvas of it. But yeah, so I'm 5 for 5 so far. I'm pretty confident in it going 8 for 8. The games, however, I think I had the Jets winning at least one more. I had the Lightning winning at least one more. I think I had Leafs Bruins going to 6, maybe. I could be wrong. I'm gonna have to look at it again. I think I had it backwards. I think I had Rangers 4-1 over the Caps, and I think I had Hurricanes 4-0 over the Islanders. But all in all, it's not bad. Like I think it's going pretty good. I'm never gonna get the games right. It's never gonna happen. How's yours looking?
No, I'm 5 for 5 as well too right now. Um, I
Didn't
had
we pick all the
Dallas.
same series winners?
Literally the only one that was different was Toronto Boston, so it'll be that
Oh,
game
yeah.
7.
Oh, and just a reminder to our fans, our listeners, I think it's listeners more than fans. Um, yeah, Aiden and I still have a bet that we made during last pod on the $20 for winner of the Leafs Bruins. I had the Leafs, he had the Bruins. It was looking like it was over. And before today's game, if I didn't get sidetracked, I was gonna text Aiden and say double or nothing, but I don't think he's gonna take that now. So
Yeah, no, it's I definitely would have after game 4, but it's
yeah.
it's too late for that now.
Yeah.
Um, James, I'm a play-by-play guy. It's my job. It's been my job for a little bit now. Bob Cole's Bob Cole. He's one of the best to ever do it,
Absolute legend.
and it's very saddening that he has passed on. Will go down as one of the best broadcasters of the NHL ever. And everything everybody's saying about him is pretty obvious when paid attention to the guy when he was prevalent, that this was just a guy who loved the sport and um, loved talking about the sport. He'll be missed, and I was pretty gutted to see that. It choked me up a little bit.
Yeah. I went back and relived all the calls and all the ones from before we were born, and man, that guy called some big moments. And those are moments that will carry on his legacy forever. Now, I can't believe I'm dignifying this by talking about it, but people need to read the room and learn when to speak and when to say dumb things because there's a time for dumb things. Not this dumb, but someone from my hometown of Port Alberni, someone who my friends and I honestly none of us really like he's reputationally just brutal. He commented overrated on an obituary post of Bob Cole's death. If that is going through your mind, please never ever speak to me ever. Like I don't think you belong in this world. I think you belong in some different world where you could spout your idiotic comments whenever you want. I'm not gonna name the person because I don't do that. That's just brutal. But like read the room. What what prompts you to comment overrated on a legendary and universally beloved person's death? There were some people who were like, "Oh, well, he was somewhat biased to certain teams." You can say that because they would follow that up with, "But I always loved hearing him and he will be greatly missed." There you go. If you want to throw in your opinion, you can do it that way. What this person did, not allowed. And I did it in our hockey pool group chat. I'll do it again. He's officially canceled. You heard it here first. He's canceled.
Yeah, James has been like just going in the hockey pool group chat we have and declaring that he's canceling things.
I
I can't
also canceled
tell.
haters. I canceled Leafs haters. I'm not a Leafs fan, but I'm a Leafs hater. So yeah, Leafs haters and people who share happy Maple Leafs elimination day on their social media officially canceled.
I don't think I've done that.
You did
You
2 years ago.
did I? Okay, that checks out.
Yeah. And you shared 3 memes last year, and one of them was almost
Three,
one for one. Yeah.
three. Okay, usually it's more than three.
Yeah.
It must have only been three because it was the second round, and I had to kind of respect that a little bit.
Yeah.
Whenever it's a first round exit, there's a lot more. Follow my Instagram if you want to see all of them this year. Um,
No, 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 no. I actually have figured out Aiden's social media passwords, and if he posts one, I'm going to change his Instagram to a potato fan account, and it will only post potatoes every single day. And it'll be like spot of the day. This one's a French fry. And yeah, yeah, that will completely destroy everything he's worked for social media all these years if he posts something along those lines. The thread is
90
there.
90-minute podcast and we had time for that. Okay. 90 minutes to now. Not even just like 90 overall. Like 90 minutes to now and this is part 1 of our podcast. I'll rip through some U18 stuff. There are 2 players in this year's U18s that look unbelievably good and they happen to be the 2025 number 1 ranked prospect and the 2026 number 1 ranked prospect. James Higgins and Gavin McKenna are playing otherworldly hockey right now. The Americans are always the best team at the U18s. They are always the best team at the U18s because the team they send to the U18s is almost verbatim always the U18 National Development Program team. So you have every other country putting together all-star teams and the Americans putting in a team that basically plays 50 games together a season every single year. So they always should win it with that. With that being said, James Higgins is still exceeding everybody that came before him. Gavin McKenna, 6 goals and 15 points. Higgins has 9 goals and 19 points. That's your top 2 guys. It's interesting that the 3 best players in this tournament so far have been James Higgins, Gavin McKenna, and Porter Martone, and all 3 of those guys aren't even 2024 draft eligible, which is kind of unbelievable. Martone and Higgins are both, they're going to go 1-2 in 2025. McKenna's the number 1 for 2026. Gold medal game is Sunday. It'll almost definitely be Canada USA unless one of Sweden or Slovakia pulls off a huge upset. Sweden beating Canada is exponentially more likely than Slovakia beating the States. But Sunday, if you've got some time, watch the U18s final between Canada and the States. Hopefully, it'll be a great game of hockey. It's been an awesome tournament so far. Both the Canadians and the Americans have been perfect to the semifinals. Every year, this is the showcase of the future, right? You don't really get the same high level in the World Juniors. Like James Higgins is going to play at the World Juniors next year. It'll probably be his last one, right? Whereas you have these players at this age, there's nothing stopping them from giving their all to these tournaments. There's no NHL team that doesn't let them go. It's passion, it's for their countries, and it's fun to watch.
Aiden, where can people watch it?
TSN.
Cool. Gotcha. Do you know what time it's at?
I do not.
That's okay. I didn't expect you to.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, because where to watch it is always the tough thing. A lot of people are always show a lot of interest in it, but don't know where to find it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that TSN subscription really isn't all that useful for much this time of year. But you know what? That's something. That's why you're gonna have to go with. Are you gonna share your TSN sub with the fans?
No, because it's my dad's like TV provider, so it's not actually a TSN subscription of mine.
All right,
Um,
this just in. Aiden doesn't like our listeners enough to share his TSN sub with the fans.
to share his father's internet passwords with the fans. Yeah,
No.
I'll take the I'm a horrible person one for that.
Well, we get to the end of the pod and we always talk very often. And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts about the pod lately. Whenever we do it, I love talking about a movie we watch, but this week I don't have a movie. I only rewatch movies this past couple weeks. But if you're looking for a TV show to watch, I believe it's 8 or 10 episodes, something like that. That would be Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, the show, not the movie, on Netflix. Because there is a movie, but it's not the same. I That show is awesome. It's got your comedy, it's got your action, it's got your story building, it's got a nice little bit of world building, and it's shot awesome. Like all of the shots are just great. And it's really, really fun when you can get some like criminal underworld stuff and still have like a little bit of humor in it, but it still feels serious. I really, really enjoy that. And I highly recommend that show to anyone because one season, it's low commitment. Have fun with it. Watch an episode here, an episode there. It's on Netflix. I believe the episodes are about 45, 50 minutes long. And the lead actor in that show, I had never heard of him or seen him before. You know what? I still don't even know his name. But he's very stoic and he has great one-liners. And I hope to see him in more things. Guy Ritchie puts together some awesome stuff. I think he has a new movie that's maybe not doing so well in the box office or just about to come out, something like that, with Henry Cavill and some other people. And I will be checking that out soon because I think I am going to start really getting into Guy Ritchie stuff.
I don't have a movie. Thanks for the TV show shout. We
Watch
have.
it. Watch it. Let me know what you think.
I'll add it to the list.
Don't say that. Say you'll watch it.
It's a lot. You know what? I should probably just start watching it. Everything on like my to watch list is asterisked with I have to wait for Caitlin, and then I don't watch it because we just don't have time. So maybe I will just like solo venture that one, and so
Yeah,
I can
episode
have
or
some
two
good
at the end of the
binge.
night when you're by yourself kind of thing. Fire it up that way. You'll enjoy it. That's what I did. I mostly watched it on the plane as well. But yeah.
So we only have two questions. They're both like directed at me, which I feel definitely kind of bad for James about.
Yeah.
um,
Do the fans hate me now? Is that the deal? Is this because of the tattoo? It's got to be the
I
tattoo.
I can't say that I've noticed.
Do I have
Um,
haters?
do you have haters? I don't know, man. I feel like if we have haters with the audience size we have, like that's a bad ratio, right? Like the hater to listener ratio, if we have any at all, just that's not a good percentage.
Yeah.
Um, the first one that came in with Aiden's prospects obsession. I don't know if obsession is like a shot. Um, with Aiden's prospects obsession, give me a number 1 to 5 of Calder candidates for next season with one dark horse.
Go 4-1 and then give me your dark horse number 5.
You go 4 to 1, and then dark horse is
Yeah.
number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Number 4, Cutter Gauthier of the Anaheim Ducks. Um, he's probably one of the guys with a little bit more offensive upside of the rookie class. The thing for me that's going to not benefit Gauthier, I think, is the Anaheim Ducks, the way they are, right? I think they're correctly identifying Mason McTavish as their future number 1. And because he's still developing, he's still going to be given a lot of priority in terms of the minutes and the matchups and the power play time and X and Y and Z. You can go down the list of different ways McTavish is going to soak that up in Anaheim. And you've also got Trevor Zegras still there and still trying to figure out how he's going to become an elite hockey player and an elite NHLer in all facets. Um, So you add McTavish, you add Zegras, you have a question mark, and is Frank Vetrano going to come back? To me, there's just no clear, like, okay, Cutter Gauthier is for sure going to be on the first line or the second line. And I would have him a little bit higher if he was on a team where he would so transparently A, be the guy, and then B, be consistently surrounded with guys. I could totally see him on the third line a lot in Anaheim, and I think that would definitely be a drawback. Another one that definitely has some situational context. Lane Hudson with the Montreal Canadiens, second American on that list. He looked really, really good in his last 2 games with Montreal. He's an excellent puck moving defenseman. Two things with Hudson that's going to hold him back. Number one is his size going to be a concern. He's a small guy. He's shifty. I don't think it will, but when you have an undersized prospect, that's always going to be a question. Second thing with the Montreal Canadiens is how much ice time might they give to the young guys, because there's a lot of them in Montreal. Logan Mailloux made his debut late in the season. You've got David Reinbacher in that system. You've got Justin Barron in that system. Kovacevic is a young guy. Arbor Jekai is still inexperienced. So I don't know where Hudson's going to fit in. Right now, they've already got their number one on the left side, but I think honestly, Mike Matheson should be moved by Montreal this summer. They've got enough young defensemen yearning for those spots that I think they're at the point they should fill it, and Matheson's value will never be higher than it is right now. Number 2 is the consensus first overall pick in 2024, Macklin Celebrini. Had an unbelievable season at Boston University. He's a very complete player. He's got the whole toolkit. Wherever he goes, I don't doubt he'll be the guy. Chicago is a little bit complicated with Frank Nazar sitting there. You've obviously got Bedard, you've got Reichel, you've got Kurashev. So a spot for Celebrini in Chicago would be a little bit more of something he'd have to fight for. If he ends up on the Sharks, he obviously is going to have a lot of chances and a lot of ice time. But the question in San Jose is, all right, you've got William Eklund and who else to play with at this point? Because that's kind of the whole list on that forward
Fabian
core.
Zetterlund,
Zetterlund had a solid year, but
especially the last 10 games, which lost me my fantasy pool.
I know, James. I know. It's okay. Number
Fabian
one,
Zetterlund, you're canceled.
number one for me, Shane Wright. I think Shane Wright ends up higher in the depth chart than Matty Beniers after not too much time. Beniers kind of got figured out last season, and he was neutralized pretty quickly. I think his game has to evolve beyond the specific way he plays, because he's a very he excels in a lot of time. A lot of players do, but when he can read the ice and when he can fully comprehend what's going on in front of him, he's an unstoppable player. I think teams figured that out last season. They took away his time. So Beniers is going to have to evolve his game a little bit to rise to the level that everybody knows he's capable of. But Seattle, for me, I think McCann, Wright, and Beniers are a good group of 3 guys that they're going to prioritize in terms of those are the guys that are going to get the ice time. They're going to get the opportunities, and Shane Wright's a good enough player that I think he's my Calder bet for next year. The massive dark horse for me is Jonathan Lekura-Maki. You saw him at the World Junior Hockey Championships. He was amazing. He had an unbelievably good season in the SHL this year. He looks like a pure sniper. And the reason that he's my dark horse is because Vancouver has some decisions to make in the offseason. Brock Besser is going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2025, so they can extend him in the offseason, but obviously that calls into question his future with the team. You've got Elias Lindholm, who's a pending UFA, Dakota Joshua, Sam Lafferty, Teddy Bluger. After they traded Kuzmenko and when they had Lindholm on that third line, like you could tell that the top 6 wingers needed a little bit. Lekura-Maki, if he makes the team, he's going to be in that top 6. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But if he doesn't get in that top 6, I don't think he's going to play. I think if he's not getting those minutes with the number 1 club, I think they're going to end up playing him more in Abbotsford. And that's kind of where the question mark comes in with him. But you know what? To me, Vancouver's top 6 next year, I would not be surprised at all if it has Miller, Besser, Pettersson, Hoglander, and Jonathan Lekura-Maki in it. I think you've got to keep Joshua, Bluger, and Garland together. And I think with how good Nikita Zadorov's playing, the money they're going to have to give Zadorov, the money they're going to have to give Hronek, and the money they're going to have to give Joshua, I don't think Lindholm's back next year. So I think Lekura-Maki logically slots in that top 6. That's my 5. That's it. Any thoughts on the Calder race next year, James? Any other guys I didn't say that you want to give some love to?
Ryan Leonard, if he signed. I think if he signs, Ryan Leonard will probably be on the first power play in Washington, and he will have a locked in top 6 spot. And I think that creates a lot of potential, especially because he is a bulldozer. He's a very highly skilled power forward and he will run people over. He is a very talented player, and I think exactly the kind of guy to transition to the Caps future. Like they have, we talked about earlier, Hendrix Lapierre, Connor McMichael, like they have Rasmus Sandin. Sure, okay, there's some supplementary pieces, but Ryan Leonard is that core piece you need going forward. And that's someone I could see just having a crazy good rookie year. Like if he signs, I think he's a lock for at least 40 points.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I stand.
the opportunity there's the big thing for sure.
And then one more. Does Nikolai Kovalenko qualify as a rookie next year? Or did they change that?
I th- yes. Yes, he will.
Yes to which one?
Yes, he will be Calder eligible next year.
Okay. Well, if he is in the top 6 next year, which is possible, there you are. That's probably like a fourth ranked or something like that. Because if he
He
is eligible and if he is in the top 6, which is possible, yes, he is playing very, very little minutes right now. But you that's because he has no Jared Bednar's system yet. So you give him next season, I think that could be 50 points.
Kovalenko crossed my mind. The reason I wouldn't have said him is exactly what you said. The question mark surrounding his spot on the team. Like I'm not confident he'll be a top 6 forward. Definitely could be. He's a great player. The other one, Kovalenko was the one guy that was going to come out of the KHL and maybe make a difference. Carolina's defense is deep. I don't know when Alexander Nikishin's going to fit
Oh
into it,
God.
but whenever Alexander Nikishin comes over, that's a name to remember. He's going to be right up there in Calder voting. He
Isn't
looks
it crazy that they're going to move on from Brent Burns and just get that guy?
That's not fair, man.
That's messed up.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
crazy.
messed up. So
Amateur
they went
scouting.
from Dougie Hamilton to Tony D'Angelo to Brent Burns to that monstrous creature. I'm not talking
Monstrous.
monstrous in size, but monstrous in game.
Yeah, monstrous is a good way to put it. Like he kind of reminds me of Nicholas Cronwell so far, from what I've seen. In the
Yeah.
like, he's got offensive ability, he's got a great first pass, and if you have your head down, he is going to kill you.
You think he
Like,
can run a power play?
pardon?
You think he can QB a power play? I don't know.
Not next year, but eventually. Like
Yeah.
he's because the problem with him is not the lack of offensive ability. It's the fact that when he's on the puck, it's very go, go, go. And I haven't seen too much of him being able to slow down the play and let it develop the way a power play quarterback has to, right? He's too in a rush. But I think with coaching and then the mentorship that he's gonna get, especially in Carolina, like he'll get there.
Well,
Last
Nikishin's also gonna have to leapfrog Scott Morrow, who I think is more ready to go right now.
I do like Scott Morrow too.
Yeah.
I totally do. Scott Morrow to me isn't like to me his ceiling is a really really good second pairing guy,
Yep.
and Nikishin has a higher ceiling than that in my opinion. So
Totally.
yes, he is going to have to pass him, but
Yeah.
he also might just keep playing in Russia
Yeah.
and improving. Last question. It was exciting to a certain listener to
Are you
hear
gonna
that.
say that word? The word
No,
they
I'm
have
not.
there? No.
I copy and pasted it word for word, but I'm not going to say what they said. Somebody was happy to hear that I'm a Breaking Bad, a Better Call Saul fan.
Change it to aroused.
Um, yeah, we got a derogatory comment. So, guys, this really bothers us.
Totally bothers. No, keep it up. Get weird.
Just say what you want to say. Yeah. Somebody just wants to know what my favorite Breaking Bad universe character is. So the way I'll just split it up. Mike and Jesse were
No,
my
no,
guys
no,
in
no,
Breaking
no,
Bad.
no, 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 no. You have to at least outline this. This fan of ours said, hearing that Aiden is a fan of the Better Call Saul
Don't
Bad
say
universe
it.
made them aroused. They are overly excited at the fact that Aiden likes this universe. So, what is your favorite character? Go for it.
It's funny that Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul have some of the most diehard fans. Hey, like there's
Yeah.
no way that that would just be about a movie like that. That level of oh my god has to be from a fan of one of those shows, which I there is some self-awareness because I am one of those people. In Breaking Bad,
I am one of those people.
yeah, in Breaking Bad, I liked Mike and Jesse a lot.
Mm.
In Better Call Saul, my favorite by far was Kim, and she's probably my favorite
Well,
character
so
ever.
favorite overall?
Is Kim Wexler for sure. Like
Okay.
she she characterization was amazing, acting was amazing, and such a believable range of emotions that she goes through in the especially in the last season of that show. It was awesome.
Um, is it bad that I don't enjoy Aaron Paul?
Um, I haven't enjoyed Aaron Paul in other things I've seen him in, but I very much enjoy him as Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah, I mean, like in little like clips, I like it, but I've only watched the first season of Breaking Bad. I know this is my red flag. I can't get into it. My other red flag is that I don't like The Office. Sorry, I don't. I don't dislike The Office. I just don't love it like everyone else does. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you
I'm
Breaking
not
Bad season 1 lost a lot of people, and those people missed out on some awesome stuff. Um, maybe James, dude, I'll come over. We'll watch 2 episodes of Breaking Bad. I'll bring you Starbucks and then I'll go home. Like maybe that's just how we hang out this summer.
okay. Yeah, sure, let's do it. You kind of yeah, we'll do that. I mean, the Starbucks below my place is pretty elite. Oh, okay. Now that we're done talking about important stuff, you know that, okay, so our fans don't know this, but I've told you that the restaurant in that little square with Starbucks below my apartment, it's been 5 different restaurants in the 4 years I've lived in this neighborhood. It was a sushi restaurant originally, and then it was Blue Whale House, and then it was a duck restaurant, and then it was something else, and now it's a Szechuan place. Um, okay, if there are no English characters on the menu, do not order anything above mild spice. My buddy Johnny and I were like, oh yeah, we like spicy, so we got our Szechuan chicken medium spice. Nah, dude, nope. Both of our faces were bright red and we were sweating, noses running, eyes watering. And like out of respect, we're not just gonna, because the food is actually delicious, but out of respect, you can't just get up and leave. You order that food, you got to tough it out. And we toughed it out. We made it about 80% of the way through that chicken dish. Oh man, I haven't experienced something like that in a long time, where like it touches the back of your throat and you can't even fathom existence. It's like you're putting everything in your power not to like cough out a spicy death lung.
I appreciate what you're saying. You're saying it to somebody who walks into Indian restaurants and says extra hot. So
Okay.
it's hard for me to like empathize with that because that sounds like a dream. Just the preference of mine.
Okay, Aiden, you're gonna order pickup next time you come over from you're skipping the Starbucks. I'll make you coffee up here. You're ordering pickup and you're gonna get the extra hot from these guys.
Okay, your description of medium sounds like what I'd like, but
Oh,
uh
you say you want extra hot from the authentic places, then do it. I'm calling you out.
okay. Hour 45 minutes today. We had a lot to go through. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, I commend you. If you're not, either I've won $20 from James or James has won $20 from me because the Leafs game would have been over. That's on
Yeah, it'll
Saturday.
be an easy dub. I'm gonna enjoy my $20 bill.
So last thing, James, does Toronto need to finally win a game 7 against Boston more than Boston needs to not blow a 3-1 series lead in the second straight season? Like both teams,
You're onto something here. You're really
both
onto something here. I was thinking about that earlier.
yeah, like both teams really want this and it's everything to both of them. Who needs this more?
Bruins.
I agree with you because I think Marner's gone almost no matter what. And I think the difference for Boston between winning and losing this series is way, way more than Toronto. Like I think Toronto will move Marner, they'll improve the defense, but they'll largely run it back if they lose. I have no idea what's going to happen to the Boston Bruins if they lose again. Like
Well,
it's
well, Brad Marchand is 36 on May 11th.
he is, and he hasn't really had a great series. He's been
I
involved.
thought the first 4 games he was a beast, and he was a very, very crucial part of them winning. Yeah, the numbers aren't there, but he is extremely useful on ice.
Yeah, and he hasn't been since Matthews left the series, which is funny. Matthews and Marchand both kind of exited the series at the same time.
Yeah, but one's still skating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Boston needs this more. That'll be the last note to leave off on. I just,
You got
I
nothing
was
else? You got no more notes?
no, I was just that was the last thought I had, and it's better to leave off on that instead of Szechuan chicken talk, in my opinion.
One actual last note for me. The weather's getting great in Vancouver. It's a great city. If you live in BC, which I assume most of our listeners do, get out and enjoy it. It's very easy to get into a rhythm of doing your job, going home, going to bed, doing your job, going home, going to bed. Get out and enjoy it. It's a killer city to go enjoy the sun in. Have some fun. So I'll leave with that. Without further ado, let's roll that outro. Thanks, guys.